day. It's all good. Hey everybody, Helena here with your Helena and Kelly.
Yeah, you're going to ignore me then.
I know. I wouldn't do that, honey. We are Speaker Insight, and we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. And as you can see, we have a delicious visitor who I will introduce in a moment, because I'm just going to do the thing where Kelly starts to load everything up and we make sure everything is actually working, and I fill in some time whilst you're all getting here with your cups of tea and your lunch. And for those of you that are joining us live, for those of you who are doing the replay, because we know there are loads of you doing that wherever in the globe you are, do a hashtag replay, because we do like to know these things. And make sure that you ask your questions anyway, because all three of us will be available to actually support you in that, which is really rather good. Is it all working?
It's all working. I'm just sending it out to everybody.
That is very, very good. So I won't know that you're appearing left, right, and centre. So I'm just going to do a blanket hello to everybody and say, what's the buzz in your business? So, or whether you are joining us from Changemaker Central, or whether you're just on the Speaker Insight page and wanting to know more about the deliciousness of being found online, that's what you can do. We always talk about the buzz in our business, and the buzz in our business is really the bit where we want to know from you what's exciting, what's intriguing, what's happening, what are you celebrating in your businesses, what's coming up for you that you are really kind of focused on. So we want to know from you what's happening in your businesses. So whilst we do that, what are you up to, Mrs.?
Well, most of you that I know, it's half term for most of us this week. So it's one of those juggling businesses and working weeks. So actually I'm taking most of the week off. And tonight I'm going to, I'm very scared. I'm going to see the War of the Worlds immersive theatre with VR, AR, actors, everything you can think of. And I did see a Hell's Angel do a review of it last week, who was a very tough guy who said that he pooed his pants. He was so scared. So I am doing that already. So yeah.
I am currently sat in complete jealousy of that. And earlier on, apparently there was a conversation in the house around, well, maybe Helena could go in Kelly's stead. And I'm like, what happened to that conversation? Because I would be a big fat yes to that.
No, Richard said put your big girl pants on. Shut up.
Plastic pants at this rate, I don't know. Right, so enough on that one. Buzz for me really is that I'm still landing after the weekend retreat kind of course that I actually did. And I think it's really important for all of us as speakers, authors, and coaches to sometimes kind of do things that hone our craft and learn more about what hones our craft. And sometimes actually it's about expanding into new ranges and looking at things from a different perspective. And boy, oh boy, did I look at things from a different perspective. And that's all I'm going to say, because it's really all still learning. I do not have language for it.
It was a bit of a spiritual retreat.
It was a very spiritual retreat, and yeah, so I'm kind of getting myself pieced back together in a really good way. So watch this space. Who knows, maybe I don't know, maybe even more right brain than I currently am, or maybe I'll just veer towards you.
Let's introduce Steve.
Oh, let's do that. Hi, Steve. Now,
hi.
We say introduce Steve, but actually so many of you who are in the Connection Hub already know this voice and probably this face as well. Yeah. So Steve Woody, you are going to be talking to everybody about how to be found online a little bit more and everything else. But before that, what's the buzz in your business?
That's a great question, and thanks for having me, by the way. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone without having to ask for permission. It's like, normally it's like, should I post this video? Are they going to get, now it's like, well, I can get away with it now. Only on this one though. So yeah, the buzz in my business at the moment is pretty much similar to yours. I've taken some time off. Bank holiday weekend, we went to a spa, we went for a nice walk around North London, around sort of Cockfosters area, Trent Park. Connected with nature. I didn't even take phones with us, or one phone, and that was purely because I'm an Instagram husband and I have to take selfies with my partner. So aside from that, it was really a case of getting away from technology for the weekend and just coming back today refreshed. Normally I work through the weekends, or I'm always doing something over the weekend, and so to actually have a complete weekend away, like with no technology, with no business at all. It's kind of got me coming back today, and I'm like, right, I'm ready to go. So yeah,
Rare. Oh my word.
She isn't normally,
Well,
right?
I was going to say it's bad enough with us, but with the three of us.
It's like
oh, it's
Jewish
terrible,
people.
right?
Right, get your pen and paper out, people. That's what I say.
We've got Lemnia saying the buzz in her business has recently sold out a seminar workshop 3 weeks ago, decided to repeat it within 2 weeks' time, and it's almost sold out again. People had fun, gave me nice feedback, so really excited.
That's
Well done,
brilliant.
Annie.
Well done.
And you are getting a hello, well, a sort of a sarcastic hello from your biggest fan and work colleague. Which, who would that be, Steve? Who would be giving you a big shout out in the Connection Hub?
I mean, I don't know of anyone off the top of my head. Might have to be Zephyr. I mean, I'm not sure. She has to be listening. She must be here.
Right.
She's logged on to 4 different devices just to boost the numbers for me.
Right, okay, let's
Okay.
get into the meat of this. Now that we know that you guys are all joining us and saying hi to everyone that's there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about getting visible.
Yes.
And let's talk about a subject which I feel has really dropped off the radar over the last few years, because we're talking about tactics all the time, about advertisement and content and being out there. And actually a lot of people go, oh, actually you should forget SEO now because it's a bit of an old thing which we don't need to consider. And actually, you know, the conversations that we've been having, Steve, is just the fact that you use it now to amplify the additional things that have come into play in the last 5 years or so of marketing.
Completely.
So, and we've known each other for a very long time, Steve. We won't go into detail about how long.
Steve is quite new to me, but we've connected very well.
You're now my therapist.
After the Connect and Create Day, she has become your therapist. Yes. So I know your journey, and I know you're going through a bit of a transition at the moment. So tell people a little bit about what gives you the credibility, the right to be talking about SEO, and also why you've become a bit of a one-stop shop for the online digital side of things for many of our avatars, and speakers, authors, and coaches. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Great question. Well, I mean, I am the avatar. So whenever I create content, I always create it for myself first because I need it. And because I've always considered myself to be a little bit, I'm not going to say stupid. I don't want to be disrespectful to myself. But at the time when I started my journey, I really needed to simplify things. It was overwhelming and confusing. And so I would dumb them down for myself, and then I would share them, and other people said, this is really good. And actually, I found that actually in the simplicity of things was where the magic was happening, because people were taking action. Because people need to take action, and that's what I found. It's taking action.
Yeah, and it's the making it not scary, because we know our avatar is scared to death of tech. Oh, hello. Hey, Mark. And so in that respect, we know that anything where they don't understand what it means, search engine optimization, avatar, funnels, things that they just shut down. They go, I can't handle it. I'm not even going to look at it.
They literally become ostriches.
Yeah. So the simplification bit makes it, you're not talking in jargon, you're making it really easy and tangible. And they go, oh, actually, SEO isn't as complicated as what I was making it out to be.
But what I also love about that, and we say this to you all of the time, for all of us, we are usually our avatar before, sort of before we know what we know. And what I love about you, which is again, what we say to people is, follow the thread of what is required and needed. And if you get feedback that what you're providing is actually working, then you can follow that, because your business will shape itself around what you start to put out, and you can actually really begin to build it. And I love that you're an example of that.
Well, I actually listen to an audiobook at the moment, and I've started going through this phase of re-listening to old audiobooks just to see if I can learn new information from them. And so the book I'm reading at the moment is Dale Carnegie. It's How to Influence and Influence People. And one of the things that he talks about in the book is about, it's not about you, it's about your audience. And this is what, like, one of my biggest USPs is nothing that I could have sat down with a pen and paper at the start of my journey and said, this is what I'm going to be known for, or this is going to be what's going to make me money. It's my accent. And I would never, ever have assumed that people wanted to, one, listen to me, or two, that my accent would have made an impact. But when I'm predominantly targeting an American market and they love the British accent. And because I'm
Okay.
simplifying things and I'm making it really, because I know I'm a bit of an energy bunny at times, but I actually can, when I deliver content, sort of, I can do it slowly, I can do it methodically. And again, because I know I know what it's like to be at the start of this journey, because I wasn't just an expert. I didn't just turn around in one day and go, oh, great, I know all of this stuff. I always come back to the beginning of, well, if someone's starting out their journey, what's it like from their perspective? And, and that's always at the forefront. That's one of my biggest values, is to help people to remove the overwhelm. And so I can't use the buzzwords. I can't use some of the things that excite me, because it overwhelms people. It scares them. And one of the things that you mentioned, rightly so, at the beginning of this, Kelly, is there are so many things that people can do to market in terms of technology, in terms of everything. There's so many, and there's always going to be some hype or some buzzword or a new trend. And people can get so overwhelmed, not just in, I mean, you can get overwhelmed in one subject, but when you've got 10 subjects to consider before you go into, like, that in itself is overwhelming. And so it's about stripping it down to the basics and saying, well, what do you need? What's the outcome? What's not just right for you, but right for your audience? And then just applying, like, the simple things to take. And it's not about getting the end result. It's just about taking one step forward. If you can just take one step and then another, you'll get there.
I'm having an internal thought.
Yeah, I felt it before, which is why I started looking at you. So go ahead.
Steve Woody is the Joey Essex of SEO. He's got the Essex accent, and he's simple, so simple that even a kindergarten kid can understand it, right? Really.
Yeah, but I can't spell it though, can I?
Kelly, he might leave before he's told them all the good bits.
So I'll shut up, I promise.
Steve, I promise. Lots of therapy coming your way. Please stay.
The fact that I'm in Essex right now, and the fact that I used to live just outside of the Sugar Hut off the high street, and you're bringing back so much trauma for me, Kelly.
I'm sorry. We've got Amy's listening from America, and Taruna's saying SEO is scary, so I know we need to get on with some content. So I will zip it.
Right. Okay. So let me bring it right back down then and say, okay, so from the very, very basics, given that we're speaking about that, what on earth is SEO? Why is it important? And because it's been around for a little while, I'm sure you've seen some changes. So can you talk us through the kind of almost the journey of SEO, why people need it, and what it actually is? What do they need to know?
Well, first of all, I just want to really point on this, because it's important that when people think, oh, I need to market, they think I need to SEO. SEO has just become a household term that people will just throw about. And when people think, oh, I need to SEO, my first question to people is, do you? Like, is SEO the right thing for you? Because there's lots of different forms of marketing. There's PPC, or pay per click, otherwise like known as Facebook ads or Google ads. There's SEO, there's direct marketing, email marketing. There's lots and lots of different forms. So the very first thing I would say is SEO right for you? Is it what you should be focusing your attention on right now? And to answer that very, very briefly and very quickly, you should always be doing SEO of some form or online. You should always be doing, that doesn't mean you need to focus all of your attention solely on SEO, but you should have a basic understanding of just the fundamentals, the foundations, because that will get you some traction. And the great thing about SEO, I saw your hand go up. Do you need the bathroom?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go back one step, because there are probably people who are starting to listen to this call who are already going into overwhelm. So search engine optimization.
Search engine optimization. So the great thing about this,
we don't want to make any assumptions here.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. So when you look at marketing, there's so many different types of marketing out there, and SEO, or search engine optimization, the ability for somebody to type something into a search engine, and for the purpose of this, let's just say Google, because we all know Google. Other search engines are out there, but they're just not as predominant in the market. So when people type something into Google, what do they find as a result of that search? And is it going to be you? Now, there's two ways that you can show up in a search result. Either you can pay for advertising to show up, or you can do what's called organic. And organic is better because it takes longer to achieve and to create this traction, but it's free.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
but
I say
when I see stuff, and when you have the paid stuff, it comes up as sponsored ads at the top.
Yeah.
I actually never go to those
Scroll
sponsored ads.
past.
I'm the same.
To the top one.
I'm the same, because they're biased, and you know
Yeah.
that they're there and people have paid them. So,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing is, and just to consider something else, is when's the last time you clicked on page 2 of Google?
Hardly ever,
Yeah.
unless I was really desperate.
When I'm being at my geekiest self and I really want to know something,
And like,
but that's
like
it.
tonight, I was googling vegan restaurants and where we're going out to eat tonight, and there was nothing really we could find that we wanted on page 1, so I went to page 2.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm really looking for something specific, and
Yep.
I need to quite quickly.
Yeah.
Or the other time is competitor research. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to just click on and look what all the competitors are doing, and you might go a few pages. But the reality is, if you're not showing up in the top 1, 2, maybe 3 spots after the search, the ads, it's very rare that you're going to get clicked on, or that someone's going to. And the chances are, when people are opening up multiple pages at the same time, they may just keep the browser tab open, but there's no guarantee they're actually going to view you. So it is important to be at the top of a search result, but there's other things to factor into this. And the main thing to consider when you're thinking about SEO is that when people hear the word SEO, they just assume, oh, SEO, oh, that's Google, that's search engines, and then that's as far as they go with it. But there are so many things that bring SEO together, and it's not about doing everything. It's just about doing a little bit in different areas. And you don't need to be better than everyone. You just need to be better than the person who is showing up in the search results.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing everything they're doing, plus just one more thing, then
gonna be higher.
in terms, you'll be better. You'll be higher than them, because that's like, take this back to the very beginning. And rather than thinking about ourselves and what we want and what we're doing and what our clients want, think just for a moment, what does Google want? Like, Google being a search engine,
World domination. Yes.
Aside from the world domination, Google's mission statement is simply to be able to provide its users with fast, relevant information. And so contextually, you have to be on point. You have to have content that is relevant. And Google, nobody understands Google's. Even Google doesn't understand its own algorithms. There's no way that if anyone tells you I'm an expert in Google, they may know some things, but it's impossible to know like what Google are doing. And so you have to just test and you have to adjust. And that's the most important thing. And we'll talk about that a bit later. But the thing to consider is you have to have a fast loading website. Like these, I'm going to go to the very basics of SEO, like just quickly, just to cover these, because these are things that everybody can do this. Everybody can do this, and it's not complicated. It's not overwhelming. Everyone's website should be fast. Speed is important factor for SEO. So there are tools, and I'll type them into the chat afterwards. Kelly, I haven't given you any of these, unfortunately. So, but there are speed tests, and I might even do a video on this separately just to coincide with this. But performance is a big thing, so you need to check the speed of your website. And in fact, if you go, well, so this depends on who you talk to. Now, industry standard is actually 6 seconds for a page to load, but we all know through the internet that's if you look, that's what the industry standard is globally.
Okay.
And I suppose you have to consider different broadband speeds and different networks and things, but 6.6 seconds is the average. That being said, 3 seconds is what you should be aiming for. A site should need to load within 3 seconds. Now, I always believe that I want to half whatever is recommended. So even though the average is 6, 3 seconds is recommended. I would always strive for a website to load in 1.5 seconds. Like that's what I would go. But here's the problem. You can go, and there's so many groups where people are like, oh, I've just shaved 100 milliseconds off my website time. And I was like, okay, how long did it take you to do that? Oh, I spent 3 days optimizing my website. Like there's a point when the results aren't worth like the return and the time that you spend. You have to consider, is this actually viable? Absolutely. And so 1.5 seconds is fantastic. If you want to get it, anybody that's going for under 1 second is purely doing it for ego. There's no other reason. It's just to show off and to tell people why they're doing it. If your site loads in under 3 seconds, you're fine. The second thing, which everyone can do, is have an encrypted website. So an SSL certificate, which you can get a free SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt. They offer free SSL certificates. You have to talk to your hosting provider. Some will, some won't allow it. Most hosting providers are giving them away free now. It used to be a big thing that you have to pay lots of money for, but as Kelly mentioned, the last 5 years, things have changed and adapted. So SSL is important, and Google will rank a secure website over a non-secure website. So speed and security, two important things. The next thing to consider is, are there any errors on your website? Are there any bugs in your code? Like when Google trawls, they call it trawling, but when it searches your page,
spiders.
when the spiders go out and on the web, they're looking at your website. They're not looking at the website in the way that you see your website. They're looking at it from a coding point of view. And what they're looking for is, are there any red flags, any critical errors, anything that shows up in the code that could be known as malicious, could be damaging, could be just bad code that could have a negative user experience. And again, after this, I'll give some tools and some things you can look at where you can run tests. And we do all of this stuff ourselves. It's every month we'll run all of the tests on our own websites and all our client websites, just to make sure everything's optimal, because these things make a difference. So those three things alone are going to see an impact. Now, Google last year made a change that it will prioritize mobile websites above desktop websites. So you've been hearing now for a couple of years that mobile first is really important, and everyone should be mobile first and mobile responsive. Mobile responsive is not a big thing. Any decent up-to-date theme or platform, depending on what you're using, will be mobile responsive or should be mobile responsive. And so it's just being aware that Google can see your website on a mobile platform, and you can test it.
Just to explain what responsiveness means, is that sometimes you can build your WordPress website or whatever it might be, a lead page or something, and it looks all perfect when you're looking at your desktop. And then when you go to the URL on your phone, everything's out of place. Nothing is easy to scroll. There's buttons all over the place. So that's what means it's not responsive to a mobile device, which could be a mobile or an iPad or whatever it might be.
It's like stretching a canvas and still being able to see the same picture.
And now we know that so many people access most content via a mobile device more than a desktop. So that's
57% now.
There you go. So that's why it's so important.
And it's only getting bigger. And actually, interestingly, there are more mobile phones on the planet than people.
Gosh.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I found it in a statistic. I'll see if I can dig it out. It's I know. So one of the things to consider, because this is the biggest mistake that people make, an entry level. Well, you shouldn't have two mobile phones, right? Although, to be fair, with the iPhone, I could barely afford one these days. I think with when you're talking about mobile responsiveness and we're talking about performance and we're talking about all these things, the biggest thing I will say to people, because this is what most people do at entry level, is they will say an image that they like. Now, you shouldn't get images from Google because of copyright issues. So most people are aware of that these days, and they'll go to things like iStock or Shutterstock or any of these repositories, or Canva. Canva's a bit better because it does allow you to reduce the quality for the website. But what most people end up doing is they'll download this stock image, upload it in their website at like 2, 3, maybe 4 megabytes in size, which on a desktop, when you're connected to your Ethernet or you're on a decent Wi-Fi, it's not a problem. But when you're little old, I've got a cell plan or a data plan you're eating into someone's, if someone's only got like a 10 gigabyte allowance and you've got 10 megabytes of images on every page, then that all of a sudden that adds up. And so you need to be
only gonna eat their data, but that's one of the biggest causes of a slow opening websites.
Absolutely, that's the biggest factor. The biggest factor is images and videos.
And that's where you're going to lose them. So coming back to kind of, we know what SEO is. We know that those are some of the key factors to actually look at. In terms of why is it important, that's actually kind of the bit that I really want to play with as well.
Yeah, and potentially for you to describe a little bit, Steve, about the different types of SEO, because I know that we were talking about, some people think that there's a lot of underhand, the black cat side of things. So
absolutely.
talk about difference so people know that it's legit.
So when you're thinking about SEO in your website, the first thing that I would say is before you even consider SEO, remember that the reason that you are SEO in a website is for somebody to view it. So
Yeah.
the content that you write has to be first and foremost for the viewer. SEO always comes second. You shouldn't SEO a website to the point that it's unreadable or doesn't make sense or doesn't flow from a user's perspective. When a visitor comes to a website, they need to be able to read it. It needs to make sense.
Yeah.
With that being said, SEO, when you're considering SEO, as Kelly just rightly mentioned, there are different types of SEO. There's what's called white hat and there's what's called black hat. And so white hat is, as you can imagine, it's all of the good practices, the things that companies recommend that you do, the things that you should do to do results, the things that Google recommend that you do. However, the challenge is that with the competitiveness.
Yeah, but let's just go. What
So,
would they do? That would be stuff like not having the same content across different platforms, so it's exclusive to one site.
okay, yeah. So let me. I'll go through a list of a few white hat tactics, and we'll dive into these. So don't worry too much about them. But keywords is one. To have well optimized keywords, so that when somebody types something into Google, let's say I want to find the connection hub, then the keyword that I would use would probably be connection hub. And by having that is as my keyword, and by putting that within the content, not all over the place. The white hat is about using it sparingly within the means of the context. Black hat,
and it makes sense for the end user to read it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Black hat would be hiding it. So if I had a white page, I could have a text block with white text on a white page that says connection hub, connection hub, connection hub.
Right.
And that is an old, it doesn't work anymore, so don't try it. It's an old tactic, and it's what's known as black hat. So the reason that black hat exists is because the pressure from corporations to deliver results was so great that they had to do things that went above and beyond what other people were doing. And then what happens is you've got the white hat, which is the good SEO. You've got the black hat, which is the bad SEO. And in the middle now lays a ground called grey hat, which is not good or bad. It's borderline, and you're perfectly within your right to do some grey hat, some white hat. And it's important. Let me ask you,
Steve, in a grey hat strategy, would getting links, backlinks to like education university firms and stuff like that, would that be classed as white or grey?
That's white, absolutely white, because I think that's a really good tactic, and it's what I recommend. And I've seen a massive increase just on the back of, for those of you that don't know, I've done some stuff recently with Harvard. I've rebuilt one of their websites, and so I've had a lot of conversations within forums and groups, and there's a lot of .edu coming back to my website, and as a result I'm seeing spikes in my traffic, which I couldn't understand why. And when I looked, and just to give you as a really basic, now this isn't set in stone, but just as a guideline, what a backlink is it's somebody linking.
You were reading my mind.
I know what you're gonna say. I know. No, a backlink is when somebody links back to your website from theirs. So the idea is that somebody puts in a link on their website and it links to your website. And as a website developer, it was fantastic because in the footer of every website I built, it said powered by Online Mastery. So on every website I built, and I've built thousands now, there are backlinks coming back. And that's really helped my own SEO.
But some of our viewers who aren't web developers, they're normally speakers, authors, and coaches. A strategy would be to get one of them to write a testimonial about the service on their website and link back, right?
This is difficult because I agree with you. That's a great idea, and I absolutely agree with you. But it depends, because on the other side, what I would say to people is, if you have a landing page or a testimonial, there should be no reason for somebody to leave that page. And so you wouldn't want to link someone away from that page if it was a landing page.
But it's on the university's website and linking back to your website.
Oh, absolutely. Blog posts, absolutely. The best and quickest way for you to be able, as if you want to build yourself up as an authority piece, as a speaker, an author, or a coach, guest blog. But before you guest blog, write an article on your own website covering the topics, and then in the guest blog you can say, if you refer back to my website, I cover this, or I've got a free thing for you. Not only are you doing lead generation, but also you're backlinking, so you're covering, you're not killing any birds, but you're covering two things with one stone.
And what I really want to say here is that hopefully in that little piece of conversation, some of you may well have gone, oh my God, I'm hanging on for dear life here. And that's a golden nugget right there, because actually the writers know how to write, the speakers do know how to put a blog together. And actually it's as simple as, oh, put the content on my own site so I can be found for it, then go elsewhere and actually reference it back. I can do that.
That is a brilliant way to SEO.
And I think just on that point, because I know that we're already aiming, oh my God, I'm feeling smart right now with my blogging.
Nice. Well done.
I think, well, because we're already half an hour in, and I realize how much we're getting done. But I think a good thing to really, another thing I want people to take away from this is actually understanding their content, but also don't do SEO as the first thing.
That's right.
Know what is working in your business. Know what funnels, have things that are your lead generation converting, which you know is your popular download or your popular Facebook Live or whatever it is.
So basically, go and listen to all the trainings we've told you already. Put the foundations in your business, know the key messages, know what you want to be found for, because if you know those things, then you've got your keywords, then you can actually start to employ the tactics that we're talking about here.
But what you talk about, Steve, isn't it, is the fact that you say, do SEO when you know where you want to send people.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, because SEO is a form of lead generation. It's a form of marketing, and any marketing is only going to be as effective as the place you're sending them. If you have all of this traffic, it's like, imagine pouring water into a bucket. If that bucket has holes in, you're going to lose a lot of that water.
Yeah.
So wherever you're sending your traffic, the page that you're sending it to has to be able to convert. And the way for you to do that is you need to be like that. Tony Robbins teaches this. This is very like, this is part of his basic, his core foundation is you need to know your outcome. What is your outcome? What do you want to achieve? As soon as you know that, you need to take action. So you need to get out there. You need to start creating content, and then you need to test and adjust. And it's in the testing and the adjusting that you're going to know what works. And the best way to do that is using, you'll be amazed at how many people do not have Google Analytics. We're talking about Google, we're talking about search engines, Google Analytics, and I think Kelly might have a link for you just to be able to go and check this out. Every single website should have Google Analytics installed on it. Now, there's two things to consider. One is installing it. Don't be overwhelmed. You can speak to me. I will help every single person in the group make sure they've got it installed, regardless of what platform you're on.
Steve, honey, just do a video.
I will, but I've already done a video. But my point is that I want to make sure that if, like, for most people, they've already got it. For a few people, you can say, if you're on WordPress, go and download a plugin called Yoast. If you're on Weebly or Wix or whatever platform you're using, there'll be a way to do it. Speak to your support, whatever your support avenue is. However, for anybody that's still like, I don't have it, I just really can't figure it out. I don't care. I'll do it for you. I really just want to make sure.
Okay. So
in 2019, everyone needs to have analytics,
right,
because
okay,
otherwise you're blind. And the problem with being blind is you're basing everything you do on luck. Yeah. And you're not going to be able, like, here's the other thing as well that you need to consider with SEO is really important, because it gets people to come to your website. But if you don't know where they're coming from, if you don't know which keywords, if you don't know what's working and what's not, how do you know what to do? How do you know what to continue doing? How do you know, like, you could be spending all your attention in one area, and it's actually, it's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. You need to know what gets results.
And so the different ways of actually understanding what's getting the results are: one, to use your Google Analytics. Are there any other ways of doing that?
There are. I'm not going to overwhelm people, but what I will say is that link tracking is very, very important. Now, this is going slightly off topic a little bit, but it's very important. It does still make sense to SEO. So most people, when they put out links on the internet, they put out what are called naked links, and not the attractive naked kind. And a naked link will just be, for example, if you was to send someone to connectionhub.com or connectionhub.co.uk, that would be a naked link. You're just sending someone directly to your homepage with no tracking. So a naked link is a link without tracking. Tracking is done by Google in 3 very, very simple ways. You can track what is called the source. You can track the campaign, and you can track the content. And for some of you will understand this, for some of you this will be completely new, and just bear with me because this will make sense. Google has something called UTM codes. I actually, even somebody like myself, I'm Googling right now what UTM stands for because I can't remember.
Oh, I do know this.
Oh, it's a test.
Can you remember? Because I can't.
Unique tracking metrics.
Metrics. Is it metrics? Because that's what I can never remember.
I'm not using Google. My hands are free.
I am using Google.
I'm just enjoying the two of you being really competitive with each other. Hilarious.
I think it's metrics. I think you're right. Oh, no, it's not. It's not. It is. Ready?
Yeah,
it stands for Urchin Tracking Module.
Oh, I was completely off there. Mine makes more logical sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yours makes sense, which is a good type of sense.
Now, I've been called an urchin before, but not for that reason.
Gonna pull you back.
Now, the reason that I mentioned UTM is because Google uses this to track links. So you may have seen on some URLs before a question mark with a load of random letters after the link, and that's all link tracking. It's what people use to track affiliate IDs. It's what people use to track lead generation. It's so people can track what campaigns are working. And so for SEO, it's very important that you know this. Now, there is a fantastic extension, and don't worry about it now. I'll post it in the link where you can actually click on if you're using Google Chrome as your browser, you can click on it and it just gives you all of the parameters. So you just type it in and then it gives you your link. And it's really, really important that you do this. And it's time consuming. I'm going to be honest with you. It does take time and you have to practice this. This is not something that you'll just do every single time. It's a habit that you have to form. But what happens is after a while of doing this, and you can start by just doing it on main campaigns, or if you're doing a specific campaign, then you might want to do it just for that. But the idea is that you'll start to get your analytics from Google Analytics, and it will start to segment itself. And you can say, well, do you know what, that email campaign that I put out recommending people go and check out the Connection Hub video, because I did UTM source was Online Mastery and this and that and the other things, then Kelly and Helena can say, we've got all this traffic in our Google Analytics that's come from Online Mastery. It's a really good way to track where stuff comes from.
That's really a deal.
Oh my God.
With Online Mastery.
How amazing.
That might be a good idea.
So I know that we're already at 40 minutes into this. There's one thing which I want to it's my bugbear. So I just want to rant it so it's out of my system and I can get on with my day.
That would be good because I have to spend the rest of the day with you.
Do. It's the fact that when people go, oh, I've seen an SEO specialist and they've told me that I can get on #1 of Google with my brand. And I'm like, nobody is looking for your brand name because nobody has heard of you. That's why they're on SEO and looking for Google. So can we just bust that myth that we're looking to look for keywords, not your company or your brand name, because people don't know about you yet. So they're not going to be searching for you. And it's really freaking easy to get to #1 on Google with your company name.
That is.
And it's important. It's really, and this is really interesting because and I learned this from KPI. When I was doing KPI with Dan Priestley, we were talking about profile. And one of the things that we talked about was when someone searches for you, like when they do hear about you, the first things they're going to do is they're going to Google you. They're going to check you out on LinkedIn probably, or maybe another social media platform, and they're going to check out your website. They're the three ways that people are going to look for you, either a social media platform, Google, and your website.
Yeah.
So you do need to Google for your name and for your business. They're two things you should Google for.
Not Google just alerts your name and your things like that.
Absolutely. They're fantastic things that you can consider, and also have Google alerts set up for your competitors as well. So anytime they show up, you can say, well, what are they doing? But not to a point where you've got all these alerts and you're like ignoring them. Like the worst thing you can do with your alarm clock is set an alarm that you ignore every day. You have to make sure that whatever that alarm or whatever that alert is, you take action on it. Like the key thing from this is taking action. So like as Kelly said, it's very, very easy unless you are so unfortunate that you've set a company up called Google or Facebook and you're competing against a giant that already exists. Most people for their company, they're going to be able to SEO quite easily and quite quickly. And you can do that just by being out there, just doing normal day-to-day things. there are some things, and if it's okay, because I know we're out of time and there's so much I want to cover in this, can I just run through a quick list just for people to consider? I'm not going to go into details, but I want people just to have an awareness of these things.
As long
Yes.
as you just touch in a few minutes about Google Console.
Yeah.
About
Google Console.
Google Console, absolutely. That's a great, and in fact, as part of this,
Let's do this in the last 10 minutes. Let's do your little list.
Yeah.
I mean, poor Alan saying he's already blind, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like, and breathe. Everybody breathe. Don't worry.
But let's go through the
there's
list.
so much to go through, and it's difficult because I want to deliver value,
Right.
But
So,
you're in
so
the
but I don't.
You're in the
I
hub.
don't want to overwhelm you. So here's some things for SEO to consider. And this is just, am I doing it or am I not? And if you're not, then it's something to consider. If you are, great. Backlinking, something to consider. Keyword research, something to consider. And Kelly's touched on that in a brilliant way about making sure it's what people are searching for, not just your own name. Meta tags. Every page on your website has meta tags. Make sure you have those filled in. And I'll go into more detail later if you need me to. The page structure, how your page is built, has a big impact on SEO. So you need to consider the structure. Do you have a header, content? Do you have a sidebar? Is it actually structured properly in the way that the page has been built? Most page builders will allow you to do this. Yeah, like your wireframe of your actual page itself. Every page on your website has the way that the content on that page is structured, and it needs to be done in a certain way, down to the fact of your headings. Most people use heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 on your website. You may have seen these. Some people just change them for the style because they look different. But actually, heading 1 should only be used once for your page title. Heading 2 for every article underneath that, and if you have a sub article, heading 3. Heading 4 to 6 is very rarely used, but that, when I talk about structure, very, very important. Any internal linking, your images, every single image that you have on your website should have what's called an alt tag. So there should be a text reference to that image, and every platform these days.
Do that wrong, don't they? Right? It's because they download the image from Unsplash. Unsplash has got the designer's name on the image. And so you can upload that image and it's got his or her designer's name, when actually you should be using that with the name of your company, your
Absolutely.
URL.
The first thing you should do when you download an image is rename it. Nobody wants to know Sunset 214-62B. No one cares. Like, that's irrelevant. Well, some people, but most cases, even just to rename it with your company name and then Sunset after it, that little thing will make a difference. But you should, like, this is where you're considering the user journey. Let's say, for example, somebody's viewing your website on a Kindle. And who are you to say what someone can and can't view your website on? If they're on a reader device, they're not going to be able to see images. And so they'll get a text that says, this is what image should be here. And then they can just start to visualize or picture, like reading a book, right? So just get into that habit, because again, it's big for SEO. So look, they're just a few things to consider. Things you can do to help you with SEO. Start posting more. Start posting your links. Now, I'm not talking about coming into the hub and just commenting and hijacking posts by posting links to your website. But
I'm watching
if you like, you two are perfect examples of this. This is a fantastic example. Every single time you give out advice in the hub, you always reference something that you've created. Now, a lot of the times it's already in the Facebook group, but at other times you off-site reference to a website and to content that you've created. Start creating a resource library of content that you can reference in posts. So when someone says, I've got a problem, rather than every single time explain that problem over and over again.
We ask questions that our avatar has, and we then do a Facebook Live content opt-in for it, so that we've always got, we put it in there,
and we're just paying attention. And
what you
all
want.
of you can do this. You can pay attention. If you know, I was always told you have 2 of these and 1 of these, so listen twice as much as you speak. And so all of your content will come from the listening to what people want. And
totally agree.
Let's talk about, we've got the last bit.
Right. So I really want to touch on this, because this is important. It's something that everyone can go away and do today. So if you've got nothing else from this, just take a deep breath. You can go back through it later. It's not a problem. But the one thing that everyone should do, aside from Google Analytics, I'm not even counting that because it should already be done. That should already be done. Is everybody assumes that when they build a website, Google's going to find them. It is not Google's job to find you. It is actually your job to tell Google that you exist. And the way that you do that, the way that you do that is by something called Google Search Console. Google Search Console, and I don't know if there's a link, Kelly, that you can put into the group for this. So, thank you very much. You need to go here. If you've got a Google account, log yourself in and register your website. It will ask you for your website sitemap. You should have a sitemap. If you're using WordPress, then I recommend a plugin called Yoast. It allows you to create a sitemap. Any other platform that you've got, reach out to the support or ask the question in the hub, like, where do I find my sitemap? We can help you with that. You will have a sitemap. A sitemap is simply just a list of all of the pages that you have on your website. Now, that sitemap, it is your responsibility to upload that sitemap to Google, and Google will then use that to reference your website and to index you within the search engine. So make sure that you are in. It will also tell you any problems, any broken links, any pages that need attention. It will give you a basic understanding of some SEO things that you can do. So you absolutely must go away and make sure that after this you have, it takes 2 minutes to do it. So just go and do it like now, maybe in a couple of minutes after it's finished. It's free, absolutely free. So Google Analytics and Google Search Console, you need to be registered and set up with both of those. That's an absolute must.
And then, so poor Alan. Sorry, we weren't laughing at you, Steve. We were laughing at Alan saying Steve is talking in Egyptian hieroglyphics. I'm completely lost. Right. So
as long as that's what you want to SEO for.
Yeah. But if people like Alan are lost, this is where sometimes people just need to get somebody to do it for them, right? At least the initial stages, so that you can decode, de-jargonize, basically go, don't worry about all these plugins and what's your site and app and blah blah blah. I want someone just to do this for me and explain it to me so it doesn't feel
so
like
I understand it.
It would take 2 minutes, Jack said, and it would take her 2 hours, right? So they're all saying the same thing. So we know this because we know our avatar really well.
Which is why we asked you to do something
so
for
tell
us
us about what we've done together. Tell us about that.
Right. So there are a lot of people out there, as you mentioned earlier, that will say, oh, I can get you to the top of Google, or I can do this and I can do that. I'm just going to say this for everybody out there who lies, just so that we can get some honesty back into the world of internet marketing. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Okay. I know things that have worked before. I know things that other people have done. I take that, I apply it, and then I measure the results. It is not possible to say that anything that I do will work for you. You have to look at the results. And that's why I said it's so important to have Google Analytics. Now, all of that being said, it's really, really important to understand that this is not a quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a long-term strategy, but it's one that will pay off. And to give you some context, I have one blog post that's now responsible for over 500,000 views. It gets on an average of 3,000 unique new visitors to my website a month, just from one SEO'd article.
Can you put the link to that blog post in the comments afterwards? We want to see the example.
And here's the funny thing: after it had been posted for about 2 years, I didn't even write it. I didn't even read it. I paid somebody, I think it was like $50 to write it for me. It wasn't even a great article, but because of all of the different things that I'd done and all of the little bits, the bank linking, the keywords, the this, that, I layered it all on top. Because of how long I've had my domain name for, all of these factors make a big difference.
Amazing.
That is what allowed this. And because the topic hit, it's like a paper bag. When Google finds something that resonates, it shows up more. People see it a lot more. It gets a lot more traffic. So Google shows it more, and it just spirals. And that's how things go viral. That's how things get traction. And so once it got traction, it hit that critical mass, it just took off. So by doing the things that I'm telling you about, you get to experience that. And you talk about the weekend. Having a weekend off was fantastic because I get to come back to all these new inquiries that I haven't had to pester my friends or my Facebook audience for. They're new people that are finding out about me and going through my sales funnels now. So I understand how overwhelming this is, and I know how frustrating this is. So I spoke to Helena, I spoke to Kelly, and I said, look, I know that there are going to be people overwhelmed. Why don't we do this? Why don't we create an offer where we can put something to the people who need this service but don't want to do it themselves, where we can do, like myself and my company can do a full website audit for you. And I'm not even just talking about SEO. I told Helena and Kelly I'm just going to do SEO, but it's going to be so much more than that. So I will actually personally go through your website and I will have a look from the conversion point of view, and I will record a video on your website just as a quick overview of anything that stands out that may hinder your conversion, because that's the important thing that we talked about.
Yeah, and you did a great version of this, and some one of our members in the hub.
Yeah,
you were really kind, and you did a full-on Facebook Live explaining to them, and everyone was just like, "This is amazing, Steve. You're, you know."
And in that, it's really educational. So it's another 15-minute watch, but it's an absolutely brilliant kind of watch. So we've got that for you.
Well, and that's a great example, because I'll do that for you for your business. And the idea is that you have that. Also, we'll do a full SEO audit, and I'm talking about everything to know exactly what is and isn't working. On top of that, if you were to give me your top 3 competitors, I'll do competitor analysis as well, and we'll look at what they're doing and what you need to do to beat them. So there's a lot of different things. We'll give you checklists, step-by-step things that you can do. I'm not going to go and fix everything, unfortunately. I can't, like, I have to be realistic with what we can do here, but the audit, to get the information and to have
awareness.
But what I also really love, and so I'm, of course, because the geeks are geeking out again, so like, just come back to me for a second, those of you who need to breathe, right? So what I am going to say about this is that one of the things that Steve is really passionate about is education. And so it has this very helpful, for every suggestion that is made, it has a helpful little educational piece that actually breaks it right down for you, so that all you could do is, even if you went in and did one of those a day, you go, I now understand that one little piece. So what I really love about the audit is that it's educational as well as implementable. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a full plan that shows you step by step, and it's as again, as you said, and you've done it, so you've seen it, and that was the important thing of this. You've got to explore this. So not only will you be able to see the results you're getting from SEO, not only will we give you some tips and some tricks of things to apply, we'll look at your competitors, we'll look at everything you're doing right and wrong, and then give you the step-by-step things that you can apply. And then you can go ahead and you can give that to somebody and say, I want to hire you X amount an hour to go and implement these things. It's much better going into a garage telling someone what's wrong with your car rather than just saying, fix it for me. You're going to get a much better rate. And so it's just to be able to give you that. I don't want to make any commitments and say that we can fix things, but if there are simple, easy things to do, then my team might be able to help as well. I'm sure you know people. There's phenomenal people in the hub that can help with this as well.
Just having that roadmap and that understanding, so people know where to start. So I know that your number 1 fan is great, because she's a typist. She has basically summarized the whole notes from this live.
Zephyr, you're ridiculous and amazing.
Of all the things that we've been speaking about. So if people just wanted to have that summary of the live in a written format, she is your number 1 fan, but she is also one of our number 1.
Oh my gosh,
right? So that's, we'll have a look at that in the comments of people. I have got a question from Lubna, who's asking, what's the ideal size of an image before uploading it to a WordPress site?
Zephyr, thank you. I've got to say thank you. You're amazing. I love you to bits. You know I do. Thank you so much. Was not expecting that. To answer your question, so that was, Lubna said, asked for.
What's the ideal size of an image before uploading it to WordPress? You know, we were talking about too large.
Great question. So I'm going to try not to be too geeky here, but I'm going to give you the definition of what I recommend. There are different types of images. There's PNG and there's JPEG. There's also GIF. GIF is for animations, and we're going to ignore that because that's not necessarily too relevant. There's also a new one called WebP, but we're not going to go into that because browsers are still getting used to it. But for the purpose of this, there are 2 image types, PNG and JPEG. The only time you should ever use a .png image file is if it has a transparent background. So you have just a cutout image and you want to put it on different backgrounds or different places or over the top of an image, then use PNG. The reason we only do that is because a PNG file is bigger than a JPEG file. And so it makes sense that in the normal case of uploading an image, you will use a JPEG image. Now, what it is before
using Canva, Canva suggests you download everything as PNGs.
And when you upload it to your website, it's going to be more space. So you need to be aware of that. So when you upload an image, so before, it actually doesn't matter on the size of the image. Never try and upscale an image. If you've got an image that is 200 pixels by 200 pixels and it's like 1 kilobyte, and then you try and blow it up to be 1,000 by 1,000, it's going to look really bad on the website. It's a lot easier to scale down. Now, if you understand images, and a little bit more technical here.
She's IT, so it's fine.
So she's fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
So most devices these days are switching over to become Retina devices. A lot of the Apples, the displays that we're seeing. And so Retina, in its simplistic term, is just 2 times the display of a normal device. Now, a normal device, if you're uploading it for the web, you want to be uploading it at 72 DPI, dots per inch. Now, if you want to upload it so it's Retina ready, upload it at 150 DPI. At 150 DPI, it can be scaled down to 72 or 75 and up to 150. And there are plugins and things that can allow you to do that. Always upload your image to the exact dimensions that you need it at its biggest version. So if it's a background image, on average, 1200 pixels wide by whatever height you need. If it's going to be just a small image, maybe 300 pixels wide, 400 pixels wide. And if you're not sure, if you're using Google Chrome, you can right click on the image and you can click on what's called inspect, and it will actually show you, if you hover over the image, it will show you what the actual.
But those of you who are terrified of technology, don't do that.
Yeah, this is as I said, this is a little bit more advanced, but I want to.
She's an IT.
No, I get it, but I don't want to frighten the rest of you.
No, don't frighten the rest of you. But if you're doing this for yourself, you need to make sure. And the rule of thumb is that the full size of a screen should be 1200 pixels. That's what you should aim for a full size background image. Half size of a screen, 600 pixels. If it's a small image, 300 pixels, maybe 450.
Takeaways.
Nice takeaway, nice and easy. And so JPEG, if you can, at 72 DPI or 150 DPI. And by doing that, by uploading it at that, what you'll do is you'll take an image from maybe 2 megabytes down to about 100 kilobytes. You're going to reduce it immensely. It makes such a big difference to the performance of your website.
Okay, so we are an hour now.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry this has taken so much longer, but
we love it.
Seriously.
We know that people have a short capacity for tech anyway, but because of the way that you deliver, I know we've still got all the people hanging on and still asking
You're
questions.
amazing, all of you.
We know that this is going to be one that they're just going to have to watch and pause and
watch and pause.
And so
and comment if you've got any questions. Just comment. I will be here.
And you're so helpful in the hub. We really appreciate it that you do. Show up for people when you ask questions. You're always doing little live demos and stuff. So, do connect with you in there.
Yeah.
Libna says thanks. We've put the link to your offer in the comments so people can check out. Jack needs a lie down. Check out what you're offering there, actually doing that initial stage of checking out all the SEO and all the beautiful things that you spoke about.
And even if all you do is go on that page
and
to watch the video,
because there's that 15-minute video in there, so you can learn a little bit more detail. And connect with you via the hub's probably the best place, because we know that you're always in there, and then they can go and use all of your services that you've got on offer, because SEO is just one tiny bit of what you do.
It really is.
So they can get everyone's sending their love. I am just going to say we're sending you our love. Go and enjoy. Have a great day. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing everyone.
See you soon.
Boosting up on their Google searches.
Let us know the results you get.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Bye all.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.